On today's show, it's a game day preview. The Ottawa Senators taking on a tough test from out west, the Colorado Avalanche.
We've got lineup notes, players to watch, and it's a busy night around the NHL, so we got a Sens out-of-town scoreboard cheering watch.
This is Brady Kachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. Down in the desert, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel, our official sports book. Today is Thursday, March 20th, and Pilsy, there's not a lot of teams I'm legitimately scared of when I see them on the schedule against Ottawa, but I'll admit Colorado is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, they've been a contender for years now. They've had the Sens number. We'll get into the Sens record up against them since the Sweden trip. But Ross, there are some other teams that scare me as well. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of teams that scare you?
Are we doing a Ring of Honor, an impromptu Locked On Senators Ring of Honor? It's not even summertime yet.
Yes, Ring of Honor. That's my bad branding there.
That's tough branding. Well, the Colorado Avalanche, I will say, are number one.
Number one, okay.
I'll say the Edmonton Oilers are number two. I think I still have PTSD from the 9 straight losses over the COVID season. I don't think it's been much better since, a win here or a win there, but nothing more consistently than just that one where Josh Norris scored wearing Dylan Gambrell's helmet. That's how we got Biz on the show, actually. That win. It was the lock of the century. So, yeah, I'll throw Vegas in there. Sens never beat Vegas. The cards are always stacked against us when we play Vegas. And a part of me, I would have said the Florida Panthers. However, we witnessed them beat the Panthers for the home opener this year. You and I witnessed Ottawa beat Tampa last October as well. And they beat them this year. I'm thinking of another West team that just for some reason has a number. Nah, I'm going to stick with what I know. I know the Sens won the last meeting, but the Carolina Hurricanes are right up there. So to wrap that up with a tidy bow, it's the Colorado Avalanche, the Edmonton Oilers, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, for me, it's Colorado, Vegas, Carolina, and Florida.
Okay, so you're mixing in Florida instead of Edmonton. Let us know in the comments. When you see the Senators up against this team in the standings or the schedule, you're like, uh-oh, we're in for a long night. Senators have lost 5 straight games to the Colorado Avalanche. They've been outscored in those games 30-16. That's right. The Sens have allowed 30 goals in the last 5 games against the Colorado Avalanche. They've allowed a converted touchdown twice. They've allowed 6 goals once, and twice they've allowed 5 goals against. Even in the win, Pilsy, the 6-5 overtime win, they allowed 5 goals, and the game before that, they allowed 7 in a 7-5 loss. The Avalanche are an offensive juggernaut on the worst of days, and you could say they're coming off the worst of days. They only scored once in a 2-1 loss against Toronto last night, where there was a lot of controversy, and we'll get into that a little bit because it is kind of jokes, and it was the same ref that did Sens Habs on Tuesday night, Kelly Zetterland. But this Avalanche team on the best of days, they could put 7, 8, 9 past you and not even break a sweat.
Yeah, Ross, this is a tough way for us to start this show. Kind of down bad vibes, but we'll pick things up as the show comes along. We're being realistic here.
I think we're just giving respect to a Stanley Cup championship group, a team that went through the dark days like Ottawa did.
Yeah, they had dark days.
It took them a while to get out of the second round, too. They've had their struggles, but, I mean, we just cheered for Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar for 2 weeks. How much fun was that?
Yeah, that was an absolute blast. I'm jealous that Colorado Avalanche fans get to do that all the time. And they do have the leader in points in the NHL, Nathan MacKinnon, with 100 104 points. Like, that's just insane.
Do the Sens top 2 scorers have? They probably have just more than that.
Well, Timmy's got 68 and 55, so just more. Yeah,
just more. You can take the Sens second and third scorer, and they have, I believe,
a little bit more.
Yeah, 108. Yeah, Nathan MacKinnon's really good at hockey.
Very good.
Key to victory. Don't fast forward to our key to victory segment. Shut down Nathan MacKinnon.
Or try to.
Did you hear Craig Berube yesterday?
No.
They asked him what's the key to slowing down MacKinnon. He laughed at the reporter's face, and he said, if you find out before puck drop, please let me know.
Yeah, like that. What are you going to do? The Nate Dogg is in his prime right now, and it's tough to stop a guy like that, especially now that the Colorado Avalanche have made all the moves they've made. Like, Ross, this was one of those teams similar to, I think it was Boston we were talking about, where you can't really look at the team stats and apply it to anything because this is an entirely different team. Like, how many teams completely revamp both of their goalies in a season and get 2 new second and third line centers? Like, they've got multiple new players on defense. They traded away one of their best players, a franchise player in Mikko Rantanen. Like, the moves and the change that this team has gone through this season is insane.
I'm looking right now, and there are 10 players out of the 19 that played against Ottawa earlier on this season are not going to be in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, wow. And
10 out of 19
in season is crazy.
10 out of 19, and that game was in November. That was, just to bring it back to earlier this season, the 5-4 loss. Like, that was the wildest third period of all time. The Sens were down 2-0 going into the third period. They scored twice. Once 9 minutes into the period, then 11. It was Brady, then Nick Cousins. Then Colorado answered with 2 quick goals right away to go up by 2 again. And then Claude Giroux made it a 1-goal game with 3.5 minutes left. MacKinnon hits the empty netter, and then Giroux scored again with 10 seconds left to make it a 1-goal game. So obviously that was a garbage time goal from Giroux at the end there with 10 seconds. But like, for them to tie it the way they did dramatically with 2 goals in 2 minutes, and then literally 2 minutes and 6 seconds later giving the lead back up and then allowing 2 goals in a minute and a half. Ottawa's done a lot better at that, though, recently, of not allowing those quick strike goals to go 1-2. I guess against Montreal was kind of, but I mean, it was like 3-4 minutes, whereas it used to be like a minute later, next shift, it was going to go in again.
Yeah, and that Colorado game was especially tough because it was coming off the heels of that 6-4 Vegas game. So those were 2 games where you felt like the Sens were kind of in it, but just didn't have it. And you're like, we are not in the same realm as these 2 contending Western Conference teams. So that was a tough stretch there, but they did bounce back in a big way with that 8-1 win over St. Louis a couple days later.
So are you calling this a measuring stick game tonight?
No, I don't think so. Because Ross, when you're doing a measuring stick game, it's up against a team you think or consider yourself to be close to. And it's not the best vibes, but let's be real here. The Ottawa Senators are not close and should not be trying to compare themselves to the Colorado Avalanche.
That said, the Senators are back at home. It's a stretch where this is their only home game in a matter of 6 overall. We know they end the season on a huge home heater. 7 of their last 8 games will be on home ice. Senators have the fewest home games played in the Eastern Conference. Tonight, they will play the Colorado Avalanche. Since that embarrassing loss after their long 9-game road trip during the World Juniors, the Senators came back. They lost the Buffalo Sabres. Thud. Gross. Disgusting. Since then, the Senators are 10-2-1 at home. The 2 losses, of course, coming back-to-back to Winnipeg and Montreal, opposite order, but right after the Four Nations break. So when they're coming out of a break where they don't play at home for a while, Pilsy, that's where they've struggled. Senators will have to keep the vibes going from Thursday's game against the Boston Bruins, where they scored 4 times in the first period and used the crowd to their advantage. I think the Sens are going to come out flying tonight, and I'm giving away all my keys to victory, but the first 10 minutes is going to be critically important against a team that played last night, traveled just from Toronto to Ottawa, but still played last night late, isn't going to skate this morning. You have to get them on their heels right away. It's going to be an exciting game, though. 7 o'clock puck drop tonight. Ottawa taking on the Colorado Avalanche. We'll get into our lineups, our locked on, lookout players to watch, and the standings check. I mean, we're still in a good spot here. First wild card spot. But teams are closing in, and you're cheering. I'll tell you later. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day. Did you know getting a good night's sleep is the #1 recipe for long-term success in life? I didn't. It took me way longer to realize than I'd like to admit. It was years of tossing and turning. I was always tired. I never felt like I could live up to my potential, but not anymore. Thanks to Bear Mattress. I used their sleep quiz and I matched with the Elite Hybrid. It's perfect for side sleepers like me. Now I wake up energized. I'm getting deeper sleeps and I'm ready to attack the day. No matter how you sleep, Bear Mattress has a match for you with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, Pillsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators, 7 o'clock puck drop. It is the Sens taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Before we get to that, what'd you think of the Bear Mattress ads running all across the Locked On NHL channel?
Great job. The guy that did them, we could have just done a live ad read, though.
I know. Hey, I wish I could say it was one take. I thought I nailed it. And then I looked and there was a lag in my video midway through. And then I got in my own head and I was just spinning from there.
Well, probably because you didn't have the right mattress and you didn't get a good sleep.
Oh, look at me now, though. Bear Mattress. Go support them, support us, support Locked On Senators. Appreciate everybody for being a part of this journey. The road to 10K continues on YouTube. We are flying towards 10,000 subscribers, currently at 9,972. But you know what helps the subs, Pillsy?
W's.
Victory!
Oh,
Keys to
V's.
victory coming up a little bit later, but a great line today from Travis Green, who just spoke to the media. He had lots of great quotes actually today. We'll get to a few of them, but first and foremost, he was asked, hey, why no lineup changes again tonight? Pillsy, you know what he said?
Yes, I believe it was along the lines, we consider this the lineup that gives us the best chance to win.
Yes, it is. So take him for his word. Travis Green standing behind the lineup that features Tim Stützle at center between Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux. Dylan Cousins on the second line center position with David Perron and Drake Batherson. Shane Pinto between Ridley Gregg and Michael Amadio. And then Adam Gaudette with Matthew Highmore and Fabian Zetterland. On defense, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub. Thomas Chabot with Travis Hamonic. Tyler Clevin with Nicholas Matin-Paolo. Linus Ullmark starts in goal. And Pillsy, I think this, as much as it's tough to see, is a really important break for Nick Jensen. I'm glad they're not rushing him back.
Yeah, like it's been a month straight of him missing practice and having maintenance days and then getting hurt in the game and then struggling to come back. I think at a certain point, and Brandon Piller, not a doctor, and I'm not sure what his body injury is. Travis Green smirked and said, we'll call it a lower. Not sure what that means. But I think at a certain point, you just got to shut it down, especially for a veteran defenseman. Like, I'd rather him rest properly and come back properly when he's ready.
And it's where the cushion that the 6-game win streak has given you, right? It's not like every night, oh, if you lose this, you're on the outside looking in. You are in a situation now where I'm not saying you can take the foot off the gas, but you don't need to risk further injury for this one game. The playoff style, the game 7, I respect that Brady still has that as his mentality. But frankly, it's like a game 3 right now where the series is tied at 1 or you're even up 2-0 going on the road. Like you're still playing critically important games, but if you lose, you're not golfing tomorrow. So I think that having Nick Jensen on the sideline, and let's also acknowledge that Travis Hamonic played his best game. I mean, would you like a little better side door coverage on the Nick Suzuki PK goal? Sure. But a goal and an assist for Travis Hamonic. He threw a huge hit on Saturday against the Leafs, had a big block in that game too. Like Hamonic has not been the problem in the loss to Montreal. So I think that him playing another game, it's not the end of the world at all.
Yeah, I'm not on the Hamonic hater parade these days. Even that goal to Nick Suzuki, Ross, I don't put a lot of blame on Hamonic there. That was just a mishap where Ullmark tries to cover it. Chabot's stick is in the way and it squeaks through and Nick Suzuki's there. So that'll happen.
Leads you into your locked on player to watch, though.
My locked out player to watch is number 72, Thomas Chabot. And I say this kind of tongue in cheek, Ross, but he's going to have to be listening for those beaver taps from Hamonic and passing it because Hammer's like, hey, I'm coming off a goal in my last game, a goal and an assist, and I hit the net 2 whole times in that game, and both of them led to goals. So Thomas Chabot's going to have to respect that. But all jokes aside, Thomas Chabot has been a big part of this team. He was your MVP, Ross, about halfway through the season, or I believe that was at the 56 game mark or something like that. And he's been playing good hockey in the last 3 games. He has an assist in the Boston game, an assist in the Montreal game, or the Toronto game rather. No points in the Montreal game, but he did play 23-08. And this season, in 66 games, he's got 33 points, 153 shots on goal, and is averaging 23.02 time on ice. Without Nick Jensen, he's going to have to be a big part of this team, and up against an offensive team like the Colorado Avalanche, Thomas Chabot not only is going to have to be good defensively, but I think he's going to have to find a way to get some offense as well to try to get some goals for the Ottawa Senators here. And I believe, I forget what broadcast it was, but they were showing that I think, is it Toronto and Ottawa, I think, are 2 of the teams that get the least amount of offense from their blue line, or maybe it was goals, something like that. So a guy like Thomas Chabot, he can contribute to that. We've seen when he has time and space, he can bury it. He had that OT winner a little while ago. Like, he's got a great shot. So I wouldn't mind him throwing the puck on net a little bit more here too.
Yeah, good call. And it was goals by a defenseman this season. Toronto dead last, Ottawa second last. That, of course, as of Saturday's game. Maybe the hammer bomb helped Ottawa climb that rankings there. But Thomas Chabot, heck of a season for him. And we always talk he needed a partner. He got one. Now that partner's out, so he needs to stay elevated and keep playing the way he was despite having a new guy on his right side. My locked on player to watch is Michael Amadio, and I decided to use his stats since February 1st because I think amazingly, Michael Amadio has 8 goals in his last 16 games. That's tied with Brady Tkachuk for the team lead, Pilsy. Michael Amadio is tied for the team lead in over a month and a half sample. And I understand that the 4 nations took out 2 weeks. So let's say a 16-game sample. Michael Amadio is tied for the most goals on the team. He's got 11 points, plus 4, 34 hits in those 16 games, and he's averaging 15 and a half minutes. So Michael Amadio is going to be a player for me to watch tonight. And a part of the reasoning, too, is that he's been a lot more effective on the road this year, which I think overall is a good thing. You want your 3rd and 4th lines, your depth to come through on the road. Heck, they're usually going to have tougher matchups on the road as well. And for Michael Amadio, in 29 home games, he only has 3 goals and 7 points. Whereas on the road, in 28 games, he has 7 goals and 15 points. So in one more game at home, he has the same amount of points as he does goals on the road. So that's just an interesting kind of fun with stats thing. So if Michael Amadio can get it cooking at home, the Sens are going to be unstoppable. And Pilsy, I will say, he has 1 goal in his last 1 home game. He found the back of the net against Boston.
There we go. Love it. I think too, Ross, some of Michael Amadio's points, maybe detractors would point to it and be like, well, a couple of those are on empty nets. I believe he's got 2 goals and an assist on empty netters. But my response would be, I'll highlight the fact that he's a guy that Travis Green trusts to be out there killing, not killing a penalty, but
killing a 6-on-5.
Yeah, at a disadvantage when it comes to men on the ice. And not only is he doing a great job of shutting teams down, but he's finding a way to create offense out of it as well. So yeah, Michael Amadio, I think Ross, he's got to be maybe David Perron, but I would even put Amadio ahead. He's got to be the top guy that has turned things around and changed Sens fans' opinions of him from the first, let's call it third of the season to now.
I think probably David Perron a little bit more, though. Like what David Perron's done in March.
But David Perron has missed so much time. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And with David Perron, too, it's less of a sample size, right? Madio, we're going since February 1st. And for Perron, we're going since March 1st. But Perron does have 4 goals, 7 points, +7 in his last 9 games. Like, David Perron's really figured it out, which is great to see.
The Dylan Cousins effect.
Well, no doubt. And it's a part of the reason why Fabian Zetterland is still on the 4th line. Travis Green was asked about that today, says he's had multiple very productive, positive conversations with Zetterland. Are you worried? I'm not that he's on the 4th line. I think he's going to have his moments for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I'll say I'm cautious about it, Ross, because if you're a guy like Fabian Zetterland and you're used to getting top minutes, I assume he was on the top power play in San Jose. He's got 17 goals. This is a contract season for him. He gets traded kind of unexpectedly. Like, I don't think he was a guy that was actively being shopped or on the block. He's an RFA. It's a contract season for him. And he's probably thinking, man, I'm popping off this year. I'm going to cash in or at least have a lot of leverage when it comes to contract negotiation come the offseason. But now the Ottawa Senators, I mean, he's losing opportunities to gain leverage in those contract negotiations. So I can't imagine he's too thrilled with how things are going, but it's perfectly reasonable for Travis Green to be like, look, we're happy to have you and we see your potential. But unfortunately, the guys that we thought you would be pushing down in the lineup, the Perrons, the Amadios, like we just talked about, these guys are playing the best hockey of their season and they're fitting in perfectly with their line mates.
Even Claude Giroux's on a point streak. Not that he would move down to the 4th, but he's a guy where it's like you could see Fabian Zetterland's style mesh well with Tim Stützle. Well, you're not moving. Claude Giroux's on a 5-game point streak right now with 2 goals and 3 assists over that span. Like, he's just going to have to wait his turn. And I get the money aspect long term, and that might be a thought of his. But you know how you get paid? Show up in the playoffs. And if he has that opportunity here, he wasn't going to have it in San Jose. He scores a couple big goals. He could be looking at some even bigger dollar signs this summer as a restricted free agent. Fabian Zetterland. Sens hold his rights, but he could be an offer sheet candidate. We'll get into the Colorado Avalanche. Oh, I can't disrespect them like that and forget their team name. The Avalanche are red hot, but they are coming in pissed off after the way their game ended last night. We'll discuss that, keys to victory, and get to the standings out-of-town scoreboard watch on the other side. You're listening to the Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets when it's all over. I've got my eye on some underdogs this year. I love betting on the underdogs and watching them make their runs, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every single day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app, it's my favorite. It's simple, easy to use. You can navigate through the menu quickly when you want to get your live bets in, and you get paid instantly. Those trophies, those green numbers hitting your account real quick. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoop actions all tournament long.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, Pillsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators back at the CTC for the first time in a week after that really exciting win over the Boston Bruins, where Linus Ullmark made the save of the year, and the Senators came up flying in the first period, scoring 6 goals and outshooting the Bruins 4 goals and outshooting the Bruins 16-4 in that opening frame. Tonight, tough test coming in. The Colorado Avalanche, they lost last night 2-1. And did you see the game-winning goal, Pillsy? Because that was something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's so brutal for the Colorado Avalanche. I kind of wish that a goal like that would have been saved for the Sens. As we know, there was a reffing mishap in Colorado versus Ottawa years ago where there was a missed icing and Matt Sogard didn't cover the puck because he thought it was missed icing. And then he did cover the puck, right? And then he thought the whistle was blown, so he let it go, and then the Avs player scored. Did I get that sequence right?
Yeah.
That was absolutely brutal. But in last night's game up against the Leafs clear the puck all the way down the ice, and the Leafs player fires it right at the ref, and the ref kind of is caught off guard. He tries to jump out of the way, slips, falls. It hits him, so basically negates the icing. Is sitting there on...
No, it was shorthanded. They were clearing the puck.
But either way, clearing the puck. It hits the ref. It's on a platter for Steven Lorentz. He walks in down the wing and rips one top shelf, and that's the game winner. Yikes.
Yeah, some were saying Blackwood probably wants to have that one back anyways, just down the side rush from not a goal scorer. But that's a tough way to end. So the Avalanche, they're going to be pissed off coming into tonight's game, feeling like they let one slip away last night in Toronto. Here's the lineup of the Colorado Avalanche. Nathan MacKinnon, number 1 center between Arturi Lehkonen and Martin Necas. Second line, Brock Nelson with Val Nichushkin and Jonathan Drouin. Charlie Coyle with Joel Kiviranta and Ross Colton. And the fourth line, Jack Drury with Parker Kelly and Logan O'Connor. On the back end, Devon Taves with Cale Makar. Ryan Lindgren with Sam Malinsky. Sam Girard with Eric Johnson. And we expect Scott Wedgwood to start in goal after Mackenzie Blackwood played last night. Pillsy, who's your lookout player to watch on the Colorado Avalanche?
My lookout player to watch is going to be number 11. Hate seeing number 11 playing in Ottawa, but it's going to be Brock Nelson. This was a big pickup for the Colorado Avalanche. Arguably the best center acquired. Well, Dylan Cousins, I guess, but best rental center acquired at the trade deadline. And the Colorado Avalanche needed a proper second line center badly. Casey Middlestat just was not working out the way they had hoped there. And Brock Nelson, this is a guy with size. He's got offense. He's a veteran guy with playoff experience. He shoots the puck. He gets a lot of shots on goal. In 6 games so far with the Avalanche, 2 assists, so it's not kind of popping off amazingly, but I do think he is going to be a good fit, and he gives this team a little bit more depth down the middle, especially once you get past that top line down the middle. It was not that threatening for the Avalanche, where now it is. So I'm going to be looking out for number 11, Brock Nelson.
Okay, we already talked about Nathan MacKinnon, so I'm going to leave him up there. Leads the league in points, but my lookout player to watch is going to be Cale Makar. I was lucky enough to go to a couple playoff games last year between the Avalanche and the Winnipeg Jets, and as good as Nate MacKinnon is, Cale Makar might be the best player on that team in terms of price of admission to watch every single shift. He has 25 goals, Pillsy. He would be second on the Sens in goals this year. Cale Makar can do it all from the point. He has this uncanny ability to walk the blue line and get his shots through. And I think Jake Sanderson's doing a lot better at getting pucks through in those circumstances, but there's nobody better at Cale Makar. He can beat you off the rush. He can beat you with in-zone moves. He's a great two-way defender, and he doesn't give up anything in his own zone. He's a one-man breakout, one-man zone he is incredible at hockey. So if you're going to the game tonight, keep your eye on number 8, Cale Makar. He has 79 points in 69 games so far this season. He's a plus 24. He does get a ton of offensive zone starts, so keep that in mind for tonight. He's at 61% of offensive zone starts.
Gotta win those draws.
Also has 4 points in his last 2 games. So Cale Makar, third in Norris voting in the last 2 seasons, has one in his bag, though, from 3 seasons ago. He's a player that you always have to look out for. He's 26 years old, right in the heart of his prime, and he has 209 shots on goal this year, Pillsy, in 59 games. So keep your eye open when he's got the puck at the point if you're Linus Ullmark.
Yeah, and you reference his in ozone moves. That move that he's able to do along the half wall, right by the dot, where he can just carve and pivot really hard, and it breaks the ankles of the players trying to defend him, is so incredible. And I forget who it was. I think it might have been Landeskog, actually. When they were on the ice with the cup after winning it, the reporter goes, "You guys have had so much success. It leads to you guys winning the Stanley Cup. What's been the key to you guys being Stanley Cup champions?" And the guy kind of thinks, and then he laughs and he goes, "Draft Cale Makar."
Yeah.
Like, that's like, if you want to win the Stanley Cup, drafting a guy like Cale Makar, that's how you do it.
And they drafted him out of the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Like, he was going to college, and everyone it was kind of like an eye-opening 4th overall. And could you imagine, like, Ottawa gave up the 2019 4th overall pick, and it was Bowen Byram. Could you imagine if it was Cale Makar? Could you imagine, Pillsy?
No,
like, the next two, like, when Ottawa gave up that Bowen Byram 4th overall pick, the most recent 2 4th overall picks were Cale Makar and Brady Tkachuk.
4th overall is a great place to be.
Oh, man, that's very lucky that didn't happen. Let's look at some stats on the Colorado Avalanche. They're on an 8-3-1 run since the Four Nations break. They have outscored their opponents by 18 over that stretch. 43 goals for in 12 games and only 25 against. Their power play is clicking. 11 power play goals on 30 opportunities. Their penalty kill, though, is struggling a bit. They've allowed 6 power play goals on 24 opportunities over that span, and they dominate the shot share during games. They're 50% on the dot face-off team. They've got 1 shorthanded goal for, and they've allowed 1 shorthanded goal, the one yesterday against Toronto. They're just a very, very good hockey team. But because of poor goaltending, Pillsy, they've been kind of fighting it a little bit in the standings, right? Like, they're 3rd in the Central, but a big part of that is the start of their season when they were allowing so many goals. Like, this is a team that, I mean, they've climbed a ton since acquiring Mackenzie Blackwood. I think their record's sparkling over that stretch, but they're a team that still has everything to play for, right? In terms of home ice advantage in the first round and beyond. They're 4 points behind Dallas. The Stars do have 2 games in hand, though, on the Avalanche. So that's the number 1 first round matchup. If the playoffs started today, Colorado against Dallas would be theater.
Oh, man. Yeah, Rantanen. But, Ross, the Avs are kind of in a tough spot because let's say they stay 3rd place in the Central Division. Okay, then you get the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Stars.
It's the most probable first round matchup so far.
Yeah, and then, but let's say somehow, I mean, Minnesota's only 2 points back. Let's say Minnesota jumps them. Okay, cool. Now you get to play the Vegas Golden Knights. So, not either way, you're up like that. Those 2 matchups, either way, could be a Western Conference final, and I don't think people would bat their eyes. So, a good team is going out in the first round in the Western Conference, no matter what.
Hopefully, Ottawa can keep them tied with the Minnesota Wild tonight. Huge game. Give me a key to victory.
Well, my key victory is going to be kind of the exact opposite of one of your many keys to victory. You talked about getting off to a good start.
Please.
I'm going to say get off to a good end. I want to see the last 10 minutes of this game be controlled by the Ottawa Senators. The Colorado Avalanche are coming off a back-to-back game here. Obviously, Toronto to Montreal, not a huge travel, but still some travel. The Ottawa Senators.
Toronto to Ottawa?
Did I say Ottawa to Toronto?
No, Toronto to Montreal.
Oh, my bad.
Get off the train a couple stops earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly. They do play Montreal later. That's probably why I mixed that up. But the last 10, 15 minutes of this game, I expect to see some tired Colorado Avalanche legs.
I don't.
this is where the Ottawa Senators have been able to shut down teams. They weren't able to do it up against Montreal. So find a way when you've got the extra legs, and I'm hoping they don't, Ross, find a way to either shut them down or make that extra push.
This is a team that lives in altitude, Bills. Do you think they're going to be tired?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I'm hoping, Ross, that they're more tired than the Ottawa Senators. Like that, there's no excuse if you're the Sens to let them get away with squeezing a late game victory out, I guess is my point.
Exactly. No, that's fair. I like that. And the Sens, outside of the game in Montreal, they've been a great third period team.
Yeah.
26-2-1 now. Sens are after leading after 2 periods. So it's going to be a great game, Pillsy, and we're looking forward to it tonight at 7 o'clock. We will have the postcast for you right after tonight's game. As we do on every Locked On Senators show, especially when the Senators are in the first wildcard position, we look at the standings and going into a 14-game slate in the National Hockey League tonight. The Senators sit comfortably for now at 77 points. They are 4 points up on the Montreal Canadiens, 5 points up on the New York Rangers, with 2 games in hand, mind you, on the Rangers, who have 72 points. The Islanders, Blue Jackets, and Detroit Red Wings all with 70 points so far this season. The Bruins with 69, but they've played 2 extra games than Ottawa, so they are in a very tough spot.
Done, Shane.
That said, Pillsy, tonight's Senators cheering guide. Of course, we're rooting for the Ottawa Senators to beat the Colorado Avalanche in this one, but there's a number of other games that are going to catch our attention, including the New York Rangers at home to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we're cheering for the Rangers to lose that game. Did I do that right?
There you go. Yep.
We're also rooting for the Florida Panthers on the road in Columbus, where the Blue Jackets, despite losing 4 in a row, they've got a great home record this season. We're rooting for the Florida Panthers to beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, this one is interesting, Pillsy, and I really want your opinion. Okay. The New York Islanders are at home to the Montreal Canadiens. This is an easy one for you because there's
regulation
2 teams.
Win Islanders. Easy.
Okay.
No, I can't. How is it difficult?
I'm just saying there's 2 spots in the wild card that are available, and the Islanders are a team that if they win are 1 point out of a wild card spot. So is your goal to finish ahead of Montreal, or is your goal to finish in the playoffs?
But I'd rather, and we'll see if this makes sense. In my mind, this is how I've done it. Maybe I'm just a Habs hater at heart and I'm trumping all facts, but I'd rather have 2 teams kind of juggle up and down for that wild card spot than one of them, the Montreal Canadiens, climb and be able to overtake the Ottawa Senators and push them down into a second wild card spot.
No, that actually makes sense. That's very fair. So we are officially, as a podcast, rooting for the Islanders in regulation to win that game. Elsewhere, and these ones matter a little bit less, the Dallas Stars are hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then later on, the Vegas Golden Knights are hosting the Boston Bruins. But really, the 2 games that you need are the Rangers to lose to the blue team and the Florida Panthers to beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm giving the Islanders win in regulation 1 arrow less than those other 2 games.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
But I will say regulation is the most important fact in that game. You can't be having 2 teams in the race getting 3-point games.
No, I'm putting that as my top hater assignment, Ross, because we got to slow down the roll of the Habs. Like you gotta put a break in their momentum, in my opinion.
Okay, well, lots of games tonight. We'll cover them all tomorrow on the Locked On Senators podcast. Tonight, it will be the postcast. Pillsy, we did all these stats, though, so why don't you make your final thoughts, the record for the Ottawa Senators against the Colorado Avalanche since that famed trip to Sweden in 2017-18 season?
Oh, man. Okay, we started off with bad realistic stats. We're going to finish it off with tough realistic stats. In the 11 games since the famous Sweden trip, the Matt Duchene Sweden trip, the Ottawa Senators have a 2-9 record up against the Colorado Avalanche, and one of those wins was a 6-5 overtime win. So it hasn't been good. And then you look at the scores of those games, Ross, and the Avalanche score 5 goals, 7 goals, 6 goals, 7 goals, 5 goals, 7 goals.
The fewest they've scored in a game against Ottawa in those 11 games is 3, and it was a 3-0 shutout win for them.
Yeah, like it's not good. I'm not putting a lot of my concentration calories in how this game goes. I'm not going to get too high. I'm not going to get too low depending on the results of this game. This is kind of just it's part of the schedule game. Let's figure it out. Let's hopefully get 1 or 2 points and then move on to more important games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it is the last game against a Western Conference team this season. Hey, Pills, right? They had the Chicago game.
There's one more Chicago game at the end.
Oh, at home. Right. Okay, so the second last game overall against a Western Conference team, Chicago, is the last one coming to town. So this is your last contender in the Western Conference coming to the CTC. If you're going to the game, like I said, you're cheering for the Sens, but you also get to watch 2 of the top 4 players in the league. Impromptu Ring of Honor. Who are the top 4 players in the National Hockey League right now?
MacKinnon, McDavid, Makar, Draisaitl?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
So 2 teams have them. Wow.
Kucherov would be right there though too.
Yeah, I don't have him ahead of those guys, but he's right there. He's probably number 5. Yeah,
he's probably number 5. And yeah, I don't even know if Matthews is 6 anymore.
Nah,
might be. Who would be number 6? There's a pretty big drop off after the most elite players.
Does like Pasta get in there?
I was about to say Pasta. Jack Eichel would probably be right in the mix there too.
Yeah.
How far down do you have to go to get to Sidney Crosby? He's still sick. He just plays on an awful team.
I think probably 9 or 10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's Austin Matthews? Who cares? Show's over. All right, great show, Pillsy. Thanks for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. Appreciate everybody. Let us know in your comments the 4 teams you hate to play against the most if you are an Ottawa Senators fan. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.